Hi everyone, welcome back. So for this week's code assignment, we're going to be taking this particle system, this group of moving agents that we developed in the previous lessons, and then I'm going to challenge you to think of it as a drawing tool and basically come up with your own mapping or your own sets of visuals to map on top of this, this particle system. So here's what I mean by that. So this is the program that you might want to use as a starting point. And if you'll recall, that's the example we did where we've created this this trail here, following the mouse of particles, and then we've added some code that draws some lines between them. Okay, so obviously this is one interpretation of that that framework. If I comment out here the part where I'm actually drawing the lines. Now, let me make this a little bit bigger. So I'm not hiding the code with my camera. And then bring back the code that's drawing the agent. Remember, the system that we have here is these moving objects, right? So there's lots of things we can play with here. We can play with the behavior of these objects. Currently, I've come up with this idea of getting them to randomly twitch, but it doesn't have to. We had in some of the previous example one behavior where they would go towards a destination. So perhaps these objects could be attracted to the center or a specific point. Lots of different ways we can change the way that they move, where they get created. Here they're following my mouse, but maybe there's some other more automated way that they could get created, what forces we apply to them, right? We have this gravity slider that's applying a downward vector to each of the objects, but this could be going upwards or it could be sideways for some kind of a wind effect. We have the lifespan that controls how long these objects stick around. They could have really short lives, for example, just be around for a few frames and not leave very long trails, for instance. So there's lots that we can play with, and the and then we can also play with how we interpret this system of points. Right? So in this example, I've chosen to draw some lines connecting the points that are closest, but there's other things we could do. We could render with different shapes. We could ask questions about, are they on the top or bottom half of the screen? Are they close to the center? Are they lots of ways that we can interpret how these agents appear on screen. So what you'll do for this exercise is, using this particle system as a framework, I want you to modify it, come up with your own interpretation of how this can be drawn, and then use this to create some kind of composition. So you're going to share the code that you come up with me. Obviously, you can add some settings or remove them here as you need to, but you're also going to take a screenshot of some kind of interesting image that you create using the generative framework that you're going to come up with. So for example, I can turn these into some kind of a drawing tool, right? I can remove the background so that they build over time, and then I can experiment, be like, okay, well, this creates interesting shapes. Oops, if I resize the window, it erases the background, so didn't mean to do that. That creates some interesting shapes. Or maybe I could decide, I'm going to add some gravity to it so they fall down, and then, oh, that's kind of interesting. They're leaving some trails, and that creates an interesting texture. So we just experiment, right? So I could say, maybe I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my mouse. I'm going to create this kind of like drawing that looks like these hills that that are maybe like a mountain range, or strings that were covered in webs or something like this. So I would, this is my composition. Maybe I would take a screenshot of that and then submit it alongside with the code. So what I challenge you to do is really rethink, think about how you could reinterpret these particles in a drawing context, what kinds of shapes you could map onto them. and then use those shapes and their movement to create an interesting visual composition. All right, so have fun with it, and I will see you next week.